All right, should be good on YouTube now. So we'll just see. Frank, are you able to hear us yet? Can you hear us, Frank?
You know, Greg, we're under a storm watch too, eh?
Are we? Yeah, I wasn't sure. I knew we had a bit of
Yeah.
a storm this morning, I noticed, but
Yeah, we're under a severe thunderstorm watch.
okay. Hopefully, yeah, it doesn't look too bad. Hopefully we get this meeting done before people start losing power and internet then, if that does happen.
Okay, well, I have to use just voice as opposed to my headset, so.
You're fine, Frank. You're coming in 10 by 10.
Okay,
we can do good.
I have to figure out what's going on.
Can you hear? You can't hear us though, I guess, right?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, okay, perfect. There we go. Okay. Good to go then. All right, so I guess before we get started, Carrie, is now a good time to appoint a chair for this evening's meeting?
Yeah, we can start with that.
Are there any volunteers on the committee for who would like to chair tonight? We're absent our chair and vice chair, so we do need a replacement.
Should we volunteer for it?
What was that, Bill?
Should we volunteer Frank with a bit of experience?
All right, if everybody's in agreement, I'll chair it.
Thanks, Frank.
You are generally next in line, so thank you for volunteering, Frank, or being voluntold rather.
Can I get a mover and a seconder for that, please?
I'll first move it.
Perfect, thank you.
Are we ready to start?
Yes.
Okay. Good evening and welcome to this evening's Committee of Adjustment meeting. The Council and Municipality of East Paris has empowered this committee to make decisions on minor variances and consent to several applications on their behalf. The committee is made up of 5 citizen members and 2 members of council. The members are as follows. Please introduce yourselves and we'll start with Bill.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Bill Boak.
Terry,
Evening, everyone. My name's Terry Kelly.
Erica,
Hi, everyone. Erica Lougheed here.
and Carrie,
Hi, I'm Carrie Hanselman. I'm the recording clerk.
and Greg,
And I'm Greg Curtin and municipal staff as well.
and again, I'm Frank Corbeil, your chair for tonight. As required under the Planning Act and pursuant to the policy, the committee is holding a public meeting prior to making a decision on the proposed applications. The Committee of Adjustment has not yet made any decision on these matters, and all comments received prior to this evening's meeting, as well as comments received tonight during the meeting, will be considered in the decision. Committee makes, excuse me, makes our decision based on the criteria outlined in the Planning Act and that corresponds to the specific application type. The process will be as follows. I will ask the applicant to present their application in order listed on the agenda. The committee will ask any questions they have of the applicant. Staff will provide their comments about the application and give an overview of correspondence that has been received. And members of the public will present and answer questions if needed. We allow for 10-minute maximum time limit on all public comments to the committee. We will then move to a motion to approve or refuse the application. We'd ask that everyone be respectful in their presentation, and comments should be related directly to the application. If any committee members have a conflict of interest with regards to any items on tonight's agenda, would they please declare it now? And seeing none, we will now move to the first item on the agenda. And the first item on the agenda is the adoption of the agenda. I need a mover and a seconder. I see Bill, I see Erica. All those in favor? And carry. Second item is the accepting of the minutes of the previous meeting, May 11th, 2022. I need a mover, Terry, and a seconder, Bill. All those in favor? And carry. Disclosure of pecuniary interests and general nature thereof. And I see none. Ratepayers delegation,
None this evening.
none this evening. And is there any business arising from the last meeting? Greg?
Not for me. No, not for me, unless anyone else has anything.
Okay, well, we'll now proceed to the public hearing. We are going to hear 4 applications. And the first application is A 2022-2, Rick Kirby and Lisa Shaughnessy at 993 Quaquay Road. Are they in the waiting room, Greg?
Yes, I just let them into the meeting.
Thank you. You're going to hear 4 applications. Mr. Kirby, if you have your YouTube on, please mute it.
Is it on?
I guess it was on. That's fine now. How are you this evening, Mr. Kirby?
I'm good. You?
Great, thank you. Do you want to give us a little background on your application?
I just moved up to Corbeil and bought a house on Quaquay Road there. And I want to build a shop to store all my stuff and keep the yard nice and neat. And that's like I got a boat and trailers that I work out of and stuff like that. Cars, truck, kids stuff. I just wanted a shop. I have no basement in the house I'm at, so I've lost a lot of storage space from where I came from. And
Okay. And your application is to build a 2,000 square foot building?
yeah, that's what I would like.
Greg, can you give us any information on this?
Sure, I can do that. So we didn't receive any correspondence of any kind on this application from the neighborhood or any external agencies. So just jumping, I guess, right into my staff report, I recommended that the application be approved. Numerically speaking, it is a fairly large increase beyond the 1,200 square feet that our bylaw permits. However, we've dealt with these types of applications before, and generally speaking, as a committee and as our kind of municipal position based on our planning policies, we've usually been all right with these types of proposals, as long as they met a few kind of general criteria. So it's not beyond any height requirements that we have. It's screened from neighboring properties and the streets by the very wooded nature of the lots on Quakeway that were developed here. So it's not going to have that kind of immediate impact on any neighbors or streetscape, generally speaking. In the past, we've kind of, I guess, preferred a larger structure to outside storage being spread over the lot, and that's kind of what the applicant is proposing here. So for those reasons, although numerically speaking, it's a relatively large increase over the bylaw permission, when looking at it from an impact perspective, I think you can say the application is minor, and for those reasons, I recommended approval of it.
Thanks, Greg. Are there any questions to Greg or the applicant in regards to this application? Terry?
Thanks, Frank. Greg, it's 6 acres in size, is it not, the lot?
Yeah, a little bit over. Yeah, 6 point something. Yes.
Yeah, and I agree. We've talked about it before. I can see us amending in the future our official plan to allow larger structures, because we'd rather see them in one location under a roof than spread out across the yard. So I'm in favor of the application. Thank you.
I agree with Terry. My belief is to say exactly the same thing. A larger structure allows individuals to say hide their stuff if that's what it takes, but a place to store their equipment. It doesn't deteriorate. As long as there hasn't been any concerns with neighbors, which there doesn't appear there has been, it's well treated, as you'd said, Greg, and I think it's a structure to be well worth its investment if it was even mine.
Thanks, Bill. Erica, anything?
No, nothing to note on my end. Thank you.
Thank you. I do have one question, and I'm just curious if down the road you're not thinking on perhaps running a business out of there, or
No,
no?
no,
Okay.
I frame houses outside of, I don't work at home.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. So if there's no any other questions, I'll put the motion to the floor. Carrie, can you read the motion?
File number A 2022-02. The owners are seeking a minor variance to permit the construction of a detached garage on the property with a greater than permitted floor area. The applicant is requesting permission for a maximum floor area of 2,000 square feet, whereas bylaw 2021-60 permits a maximum floor area of 1,200 square feet. We, the undersigned, in making the decision upon this application, have considered whether or not the variance requested was minor and desirable for the appropriate development and use of the land, and that the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw and official plan will be maintained. Concur in the following decision and reasons for decision on this 15th day of June 2022, that the requested variance to permit the construction of a detached garage with a greater than permitted floor area be approved.
I have a mover, please. Terry, and a seconder, Bill. All those in favor? Approved. Greg, can you now explain to Mr. Kirby what happens next?
Sure. So following the decision of this committee, we'll prepare a notice of the decision, and you'll also get a copy of the decision. So both of those things will come to you within the next few days. There is a mandatory 20-day appeal period. So this is a period where a neighbor or someone could appeal the decision made by this committee. That's very unlikely to happen, as we didn't receive any correspondence and no one has attended this meeting to object to the application. Nonetheless, we need to wait the 20 days before your decision becomes final. Once that decision becomes final, then we can finalize your site plan control agreement that I'm currently working on, and you can apply for your building permit. So all of those timelines will be included in the letter that we send to you in the next few days.
Great. Sounds good.
Thank you, Mr. Kirby. Have a great night.
You too. Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to the second application, which is B 2022-10, Rainey and Linda Champagne at 13 Champagne Road, to permit the creation of one new lot for residential purpose. Greg, is Mr. Champagne in the waiting room?
Yes, I just admitted him. It seems like it's just taking a second. And now he has disappeared. He was in the waiting room a moment ago. Maybe we'll give him just a minute. I saw the name there, and maybe he's having technical issues.
I know all about that.
Yeah, we all do in the past 2 years. Nobody's made it through COVID without technical issues, that's for sure.
Looks like he's there. Good evening, Mr. Champagne.
Hi,
How are you tonight?
I'm good, thanks.
Good. We're here to listen to the comments on the application for Mr. Rainey and Linda Champagne. Are you acting on his behalf or?
I guess I am, yes.
Okay, can you share a little bit of information?
Well, we're looking at severing a 2-acre lot, which I believe is the minimum lot available on the Corbeil Road. And it is directly across from Champagne Aggregates on Champagne Road, or on Corbeil Road. And it's a part of the 31 Champagne property.
Okay. Greg, have you got any information for us?
Sure, I'll be very brief. We did not receive any correspondence on this one either. The existing property is just over 90 acres. So although it has a Champagne Road address, most of its frontage is on Corbeil Road. So the applicant is proposing to create one lot with 60 meters of frontage and 0.8 hectares or 2 acres in lot area, which meets our minimum requirements. Their proposed location has no other obvious constraints as far as environmental go, and sightlines for driveway entrance look good. So for those reasons, we have no objection to this application either.
Thanks, Greg. Are there any questions from the committee? Bill? No.
Nothing for me, Frank. It sounds straightforward.
Okay. We'll now put it to motion then. Carrie?
File number B 2022-10, the applicants are requesting consent to sever from the Committee of Adjustment for the purpose of creating one new lot from the property at 31 Champagne Road. We, the undersigned, in making the decision upon this application, have considered whether or not the requested consent is in conformity with the policies laid out in the East Ferris official plan and consistent with the requirements of section 5124 of the Planning Act. Concur in the following decision and reasons for decision on the 15th day of June 2022. That the requested consent to create one new additional lot be approved, conditional upon the following. Confirmation is provided that all taxes are paid up to date, that a plan of survey is prepared and filed with the municipality, that a plan of survey be sent electronically to the municipality of East Ferris, Director of Community Services, that the applicant is required to pay $250 to the municipality of East Ferris for the finalization fee prior to the transfer of the severed land, that the applicant is required to pay $1,000 to the municipality of East Ferris for the parkland dedication fee, that the transfer of land is submitted to the Secretary Treasurer for the issuance of the certificate of consent, that prior to the endorsement of the transfer, the owner grants simply unto the municipality of East Ferris, free of any charges, all lands measured 10 meters from the center line of any existing publicly maintained road along the full length of the owner's total holdings, and that all conditions must be filled within 2 years the date of notice of decision has been given, otherwise this provisional consent will lapse and the application for consent shall be deemed to be refused.
Thanks, Carrie. Can I get a mover, please? Erica, a seconder. Bill? All those in favor? Carrie? Thank you. And Greg, can you explain to Mr. Champagne what happens next?
Sure. So after this meeting in the next few days, we'll be sending out a copy of the decision. So all of the conditions you just heard read by Carrie, those are conditions that need to be fulfilled to finalize this application. So you'll get a copy of those as well as a copy of the notice of decision with the timelines. After a mandatory 20-day appeal period, this decision will be final. So you'll receive what's called provisional consent then. And then you'll have 2 years to finalize the list of conditions I just described. The notices you receive will spell all of this out in clear detail, but if you have any questions, feel free to contact the municipal office.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Champagne. Have a good night.
Yeah, thank you. Have a good night. Thank you.
Okay, we'll now proceed to the third item on the agenda, which is application B 2022-11 and B 2022-12. It's Nathan Klooster. It's the vacant land on Highway 17 to permit a creation of 2 new lots for residential purposes.
Hello.
Good evening, Mr. Klooster. We can hear you, but we can't see you.
Working on that. How you doing?
And now we can see you and hear you. We're viewing your application to create 2 new lots. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, so I'm looking to sever 2 lots off at roughly 10 acres lot. Both accesses would be off Highway 17. The entire acreage is 110 acres, I believe, ballpark, give or take. I've approached the MTO previously and have engaged them about those accesses onto the highway, and they agree that they're appropriate for residential, I guess. Other than that, I don't really have a ton on it.
Okay. Are there any questions from the committee to Mr. Klooster? None? Erica? No? Terry? Bill?
No.
Greg, I just had, did we receive anything from the Ministry of Transportation?
Yes, we did. We received a letter from their corridor management office stating the same as what Mr. Klooster said. They have no objection to this lot creation if the entrances will be used for residential. However, they would not permit commercial entrances in this location. But this property is not zoned commercial, so there's no worries there. These entrances were previously existing, so the reconstruction of Highway 17 when Corbeil Corners was redone actually went past this location. So when the MTO rebuilt the highway, they actually framed in these entrances already. So they're previously existing, and the MTO basically acknowledged their existence by reconstructing around them when they did their reconstruction. But long story short, yes, they submitted a letter saying that they have no objection to that entrance location.
Any correspondence from Mattawa Conservation?
We did not get any North Bay Mattawa Conservation Authority correspondence on this. I'm not too concerned by not receiving it though, because of the size of these lots. There is wetland along the rear portion of these lots, especially the westerly-most lot has wetland that runs along the, I guess, southwest corner. But when you look at the mapping of where their regulated area extends, it only covers maybe a third of the lot. So we're looking at about 6-7 acres outside of the regulated area, not near the wetland. So I wouldn't be particularly concerned with moving forward just because of the size of the lots in this case.
I would assume then they would those lots would be under control as far as septic systems, etc. Location at the time.
So yeah, septic permits are required by the North Bay Mattawa Conservation Authority in all cases, regardless of whether it's a new lot or regardless if they were involved in any previous processes. And the same goes for development interference and alteration permits within their regulated area. So if development did fall within their regulated area, they would be entitled to permit for it if that situation arose in the future.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions on this application? Terry? Erica? Then can we have a motion? Carrie, can you read that motion to us now, please?
File number B 2022-11 and B 2022-12. The applicant is requesting consent to sever from the Committee of Adjustment for the purpose of creating 2 new lots for residential purposes. We, the undersigned, in making the decision upon this application, have considered whether or not the requested consent is in conformity with the policies laid out in the East Ferris official plan and consistent with the requirements of Section 5124 of the Planning Act. Concur in the following decision and reasons for decision on the 15th day of June 2022. That the requested consent to create 2 new additional lots be approved, conditional upon the following for each application. That confirmation is provided that taxes are paid up to date, that a plan of survey is prepared and filed with the municipality, that a plan of survey be sent electronically to the municipality of East Ferris Director of Community Services, that the applicant is required to pay $250 per lot to the municipality of East Ferris for the finalization fee, that the applicant is required to pay $1,000 per lot to the municipality of East Ferris for the parkland dedication fee, that the transfer of land is submitted to the Secretary Treasurer for the issuance of the certificate of consent. Prior to the endorsement of the transfer, the owner grants simply unto the municipality of East Ferris, free of any charges, all lands measured 10 meters from the center line of any existing publicly maintained road, and that all conditions must be filled within 2 years from the date the notice of decision has been given. Otherwise, this provisional consent will lapse.
Thank you, Carrie. Can I have a mover on that? Terry, seconder? Bill? All those in favor? Carrie? Greg, can you explain to Mr. Klooster what happens next?
Sure. So within the next few days, you'll receive a copy of the decision made by the committee, as well as a notice with the required timelines for you. So there's a 20-day waiting period following the decision. So that's the mandatory appeal period under the Planning Act. If there's no appeals received, then you'll have what's called provisional consent. So at that point, the decision will be final and you can start fulfilling your conditions. And you have 2 years to fulfill those conditions. If you have any questions, we'll be available at the municipal office to answer them. But all of the specific timelines and the list of conditions will be on the documentation you receive from us in the next few days.
Awesome.
Thanks, Greg. Any questions of us, Mr. Klooster?
Nope. Thanks for, I've touched base a few times with the council or municipality. It's been really good information and insightful. So I appreciate the help on everything along the way. That's about it.
Well, thank you, and hope you have a good evening.
Yeah, you too. Thanks. Thanks again. Have a good one. Bye.
Okay, we'll proceed to our final application of the evening. It's B 2022-13, Jean-Paul Perron, 1117 Lake Nosbonsing Road, to permit the creation of 1 new lot for residential purpose. Right, can you let him? Good evening, Mr. Perron.
Yes, hello.
How are you this evening?
Good, yourself?
Great, thank you. Can you give us a little bit of background on your application?
Some background.
Can you tell us a little bit of what your plans are for?
Well, this property is to be sold to my nephew, so he can build a house on it.
Okay. Is there a size to it, a minimum 2 acres?
It doesn't really say on the plan here.
Would you like me to jump in, Frank, and give a bit of a background on it?
Yeah.
So this application was actually previously approved by council in 2017. So it came before council in the early part of 2017, and and yeah, it was approved, but then the conditions were not fulfilled within the 1 year timeline, so the application lapsed. So that's why we're back before the committee today. He's basically asking for the exact same approval that he was granted in 2017, and then intends to do the work to fulfill the conditions within the time frame this time. So we're looking at a lot. The severed lands would have about 80 meters of frontage on Lake Oswego Road, and it's just over 4 acres. So it's about 2.6 hectares, which is, I guess, like 4.5 acres. And then the retained lands are larger than that. So he's basically asking for approval for the identical thing he was already granted with no differences.
Okay. Carrie, can you read the motion to us then?
File number B, 2022.
Hang on, Carrie. Terry?
Thanks, Frank. I have one question. What conditions weren't fulfilled, Greg? Please.
Oh, I think that the applicant may be able to answer this question better, but according to our files, we didn't have any of the documentation required. So they may just have not been aware that there were conditions that needed to be fulfilled.
Okay, and the other question I had, the access is going to be off Lake Oswego Road? Because I see it backs onto Duganye Road, right?
Yes, the access is going to be off Lake Oswego Road. That's a good question.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Thanks, Terry. Any other questions? Carrie, can you proceed, please?
File number B, 2022-13. The applicant is requesting consent to sever from the Committee of Adjustment for the purpose of creating one new lot from the property at 1117 Lake Oswego Road. We, the undersigned, in making the decision upon this application, have considered whether or not the requested consent is in conformity with the policies laid out in the East Ferris official plan and consistent with the requirements of Section 5124 of the Planning Act. Concur in the following decision and reasons for decision this 15th day of June 2022, that the requested consent to create one new additional lot be approved, conditional upon the following. That confirmation is provided that all taxes are paid up to date, that a plan of survey is prepared and filed with the municipality, that a plan of survey be sent electronically to the municipality of East Ferris Director of Community Services, that the applicant is required to pay $250 to the municipality of East Ferris for the finalization fee prior to the transfer of the land, that the applicant is required to pay $1,000 to the municipality of East Ferris for the parkland dedication fee, that the transfer of land is submitted to the Secretary Treasurer for the issuance of the certificate of consent, that prior to the endorsement of the transfer, the owner grants simply unto the municipality of East Ferris, free of any charges, all lands measured 10 meters from the center line of any existing publicly maintained road, and that all conditions must be filled within 2 years from the date the notice of decision has been given, otherwise this provisional consent will lapse.
Thank you, Carrie. Can I get a mover, please? Erica, seconder, Bill. All those in favor? And it's carried. Thank you. Greg, can you explain to Mr. Perro what happens next?
Sure. So Mr. Perro, I'll be in touch with you in the next few days with a copy of the decision that was made. It'll have a list of all the conditions you need to fulfill. So you basically have 2 years that you need to do the surveying work. There's some legal paperwork you need to prepare, and then a couple other things you'll see on the decision. So that's why the application wasn't able to finalize last time, because of the conditions not being met. So I'll work through it with you and make sure that you know exactly what needs to be done to make sure we finalize it this time.
Yeah, because I didn't know what needed to be done last time, so.
No problem. I'll walk through it with you after the meeting.
Okay, any questions of us, Mr. Perro?
No, I don't.
Well, thank you and have a good evening.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. That concludes the application part of the meeting. Greg, do we have any in camera?
We do not, no.
Okay. Any correspondence?
Not from me.
No. Well, then I guess, can I get a mover to adjourn? Terry, Bill, in favor? Thank you, and have a good night, everyone.
Well done, Frank.
And
Thanks
thanks
a lot,
for
everyone.
Thanks for doing it,
staying.
Frank. Did a good job.
Yeah.
Take care.
Good night, everyone.